What is going on, friends? Welcome back to the Your Boy Roy Show. We're around here, we earn our cookie. Very special episode, very special guest. I am here with none other than
It's me.
Mrs. Your Boy Roy.
It's
We're
been
out
a
of
while.
practice. We're out of practice.
We haven't done this in a while.
Very special episode. Always love when I have my wife on here. I'd love to make this a regular thing, and I assume everybody else would love to make it a regular thing.
We'll see.
Because they love you more than me. Or at least love us together more than me by myself. That's just the truth. You can't deny that. We're better together.
I could deny it, but I won't.
And we're still thinking of... I want to come up with a name. Like a title for... Make this a segment. For whatever you're on the podcast, this is and how we're going to do this. A name. And I can't think of a name yet. I had a couple ideas. One of them is the fact that we have wine right now, and I was eating chicken nuggets, and we'd call it wine and nuggets.
But I don't think that's like a normal thing. Right now, it's New Year's Eve today, so
Sure.
I think it's a little bit different today than
Wine and nuggets. I don't know. It sounds fun.
normal.
We don't have to do it every time. The other thought I had was shower talks, because we're going to debate some today, whether we agree or disagree. We'll talk about some different topics, and I feel like this always happens when we're in this show. This is TMI for you guys, but it is what happens.
We have our most debates when we're in the shower.
That is the truth.
Yeah. Most of our debates are in the shower.
So, cheers. Cheers to, it's actually New Year's Eve. It's
Yes.
December 31st, 2024. We're about to step into the new year, and we're recording this podcast, drinking some wine.
I'm ready for this year to be over.
Me too.
It's been a rough year, babe.
This year has been wild in not the best way. But I always think that the harder the situation and the problem, as long as you're willing to get through it, it's just part of the process, and we learn. So as long as we learn from it, that is going to be what makes our 2025 so great.
Yep.
And beyond.
I already think that there were some hard changes that needed to happen this year that we have made it through, and we're already on the right track. I think both of us, separately and together.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think the hard part was we thought that we had already gone through all the trials and tribulations that we needed to go to have the success that we wanted to have, and then it didn't happen. But at the same time, we're always going to have trials and tribulations at the same time, so to not expect the trials and tribulations. I just think we were expecting it in maybe a different way, or have hard times in different areas and success in different areas, and it didn't quite happen the way that we imagined it. What?
That's
Why are you
just
laughing? Why are you laughing?
I'm not laughing. I just feel like I think that's just how God works. Like, you can't just plan out your life. Like, it just is. You just go with the flow, and you just have to take every moment as it comes.
We're already debating. This is already it.
Yeah,
I feel like
know,
there's expectations, right? Like, if I train to do a competition and I know what I can lift, and I know what my PRs are, and I know what my capacity is, and I know how I should perform during that competition. And if I know that these are my standards, and I go to that competition and I perform under those standards, then I'm upset because of the expectations. I know all the preparation we've been doing for the last 3 years to lead up to 2024, so I had expectations of what those things were, and I underperformed what I thought those expectations were. And I think that it could have been very similar that, you talk about God's plan, right? Like, it could have been very similar to, I do all this work, and then this could have been the best year ever, and then it would have been like, so I don't think it's like that's just how it is, because it could have been either
But I
way.
think I also believe that you do all that training, and because you're doing all that training, you get hurt. And then what?
Sure. I'm just saying that there's a positive side to it, too. I'm saying that there's a positive side to it, too. Like,
There's always, yeah. I mean,
Sure.
yes.
the way you smiled at me was like, well, of course it didn't go well, because that's God's plan. It's always going to be messy.
I didn't mean it like that. Number one, they can't hear me smile. So
Well, on YouTube, they can see it. So, I don't want to go that far. They can see that little smirk you had. I'm like, what? I don't know, but, yeah.
I mean, yes, we have expectations, and I think that that's our problem, is that we have expectations. I think more realistically, we have hopes and dreams that we're trying to achieve, and I think that you and I have spent the entirety of our relationship trying to build towards those things, and what we thought was going to be that reality for us kind of came crumbling down this year, and we're having to go almost not entirely a different direction, but like we're each taking different roles in how we're going to get there now, is how I see it.
And I think when we go on my view of like God's plan, right, or you can think of the universe or destiny or whatever it is. Obviously, Tasha and I are very big into our faith, so we talk about God a lot, and we'll probably debate that on here as well. That's one of my favorite debates, is like the universe and God and higher power. That's not today's talk. We got to get into today's talk, but I think that it was, for me, not so much that, this year had to be bad or this or that for God's plan. I just think that God put me on this earth for a reason, and he has purpose for me, and the way I was going about building the business and our relationship and things like that I was taking shortcuts, right? Like there was things that I needed, that's what kind of the changes that we made. There was things that I needed to be doing because it's my role and what I'm good at, that I was avoiding because honestly I was being lazy and it was hard. And I think that however you want to think about it, God was like, I'm not going to let you be successful this way because that's not how I put you on this earth or how I've been teaching you or this is not going to put you, if you become successful doing it this way, you'll never learn the lessons I need to teach you in life. And so I need to go through those lessons to become the person that I need to be. And that's where, in the middle of this year, I just feel like I've been on this high of all highs because I'm doing the hard work. I have the mental discipline. I'm doing the things that I don't feel like doing, but I'm doing them anyway. And you get that sense of pride and confidence when you do that. And I just feel like I've been able to take things to the next level, which is what you were saying, that we already feel like before 2025 has even happened, we're already stepping into what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I think it goes beyond just what you're doing, though. I think it goes into the fact that Rough has been, this company has been the entirety of our relationship. Like, I came in as a coach and manager of the gym without any experience running a gym, doing any kind of coaching in that manner. And it has tested our relationship and our marriage for a while. And I think me kind of coming to the realization that this is your dream and it's my job as your wife to help see it through for you, but it's not my job as your wife to make it happen. And kind of stepping back and allowing you to step into that role, number one, just what you said, has helped you gain more confidence in what you're doing, learn the things that are working and not working. And number two, has given me the opportunity to figure out what my true role is in the company and how we're going to bring that together and build it together as a couple without me sacrificing what I want to be doing and without you sacrificing or trying to, like you said, make shortcuts to get to our end game.
I think that, I think there's always the dichotomy to thing, which is why I always love debating, because I can play both sides, right? There's always two sides to the story, and I think that one side is that you just got to, like, there's always going to be hard work. There's always going to be something you don't enjoy doing that you just have to do. But the same note, when you find the thing that you love and you're good at and you're passionate about, like, I was avoiding some of the hard work, but it was actually the stuff that I really loved and enjoyed. And when I was able to step into that, you and I have both seen how that's changed for me. But also with you stepping into the FDN stuff that you're doing, like, it's just to see you light up and what you're learning and all these things, like, we're able to work in the things that we're good at. Even though there's moments in there where you're like, this fucking sucks, right? Like, it's still like you want to do it because it's what, almost like that purpose or that destiny or what you're lined up to be doing.
Yeah, and I think you and I have had so many debates about, like, not necessarily debates, but conversations about how these last 3.5 years since 2020, when I started working for you before we were even dating, has kind of shaped our relationship and given me a perspective as to what actually needs to happen in Rough and what role that you're going to be taking over when I stepped out of the management role at Rough, and what that looks like for you. So it's given me a different perspective rather than just, oh, he works all the time or whatever. Like, it's helped our relationship because I understand the amount of work. Yeah. I just wasn't cut out for that job, and there was a different place for me. And I think that that's what I meant when I say, like, God has a plan for us. Because that, me knowing what you're doing, because I was trying to do it, and we can debate this, but failing miserably, I feel like. And you stepping into that role and figuring out, like, where are the gaps? Like, where are we falling short? What do I need to be doing so eventually we can get to the place that you and I have talked about, where we would love to see the company thrive. And me stepping into something that feels way more authentic to who I am, but not sacrificing the work either, right? Because I think that, like you said, you have to work hard, period, in order to be successful at anything. And you have to do hard things, and you have to be able to sacrifice time and energy and all of these other things and do things that make you uncomfortable. Otherwise, it's never going to come to fruition the way that you want it to. But I think it's given me a different perspective on what it takes to grow the business, and it's given you a better idea of what needs to happen so somebody can come in and fill that role eventually.
Yeah.
Did that make sense?
Yeah,
I feel like I rambled a little bit.
No, I think it makes sense, and I think that what we're both trying to say in the grand scheme of this is that if you want to build a strong, healthy relationship with your significant other, start a business with them, and then do each other's job, and then see how that goes. And you'll learn a lot about the other person real quick. Because I think it's forced us to communicate. It's forced us to learn about each other. And I think one of the things that I appreciate, that I've never had before, is that because Tasha did, in some aspects, the job that I was doing, even though she hated it, and we kind of try to force her into doing that, and she didn't like it, she at least understands now what it is that I'm trying to do. And
I didn't hate all of it, okay? I want to cut you
fair,
off.
That's fair.
Yeah, he's making it seem like I hated my job. I don't. I'm still very much involved at Rough, and I still very much do things, and people still very much understand that we are in this together.
The way that I've put it is, like me running the business, being the manager, the bigger picture of things, and you have very much excelled at doing the personal relationships, the one-on-one coaching, what you're doing with the FDN, which, maybe we'll have time in this podcast to kind of go through what you've been learning and things like that, because it's very cool. It's very interesting. I actually had somebody on a consult today. I was talking about what you've been learning, and she was like, I'll be your first customer. I'll be your first customer for that. And I was like, I'll hold you to that, to be the first customer. But
getting that a lot.
Exactly. I'm like, it's going to be a race to the first customer. Yeah. We'll have a spot for you, but to be the first, there's going to be a race, because I think we got about a dozen people that are like, as soon as you finish that FDN course, sign me up.
Yeah.
Because Tasha's going to be able to do blood work, hormones, oh my God, I can't wait for you to be able to do that. I want you to do, actually, I'm not a customer, but I'm going to be first. You're going to do all my hormones and stuff
I'm so
first.
excited.
So,
this could be a whole podcast in itself, talking about how Roy doesn't think that he needs to change anything about what he's doing.
Yeah. Well, what you're going to do is you're going to come back and be like, all your numbers are perfect, and you're a stallion. I'll be like, yeah.
See? This is what I live with.
That's what's going to happen.
This is our debate. These are our shower talks.
We'll see. We'll see when we get there. Okay, let's get into today's episode. I hope you guys liked our little talk. This is how it goes. So the way I wanted to do this is because we actually tried to do this probably about, a month ago? And we finally started the camera, and we were like, what do we say? I don't know what we're going to debate. Like, it just didn't happen naturally. Like, that just, our conversations normally happen. And I was trying to think of what would spark the conversation. What I realized is that usually we'll see things on, like, Instagram or Reel or TikTok, and we'll send it to each other, and we'll be like, oh my God, yeah, I agree so much with that. Or, I can't believe that they're saying this. Or, this makes me so mad. And they're like, I don't know, does it? And then that's when the debate starts. So we actually have two. I've been saving these things. It's a playlist. It literally says play on podcast. I have two of them that I want to play today, and we'll listen to it. If you're on YouTube, I will put it up on the screen so you can see the video. If you're watching on the podcast, you'll be able to hear it. But we'll play it, and then we'll talk about it. We'll hopefully have this debate, whether we agree, disagree, or what do we think, or how do we solve the problem.
Okay.
Cool? All right, this is the first one. Let's see. Let me make sure my volume's up. Here we go.
The guidelines actually say that obesity is a disease. It's not tied to diet or lifestyle or personal responsibility. And that Ozempic needs to be the frontline immediate defense. That you will be anti-science if you don't get Ozempic right away. It opens up the drug to the 80% actually of people on Medicare are overweight or obese. Now the reasons this impacts kids is because it gets to Medicaid. Once something's approved for Medicare, it goes to Medicaid. And now the American Academy of Pediatrics is pushing this drug as young as 6. So what this is going to do immediately is that a mother with their child who's 6, who's a little bit overweight or obese, will be told that she is going against the science to not give this child a lifetime drug. And the big issue here, why this is so important, $1,600 per month per patient donation sent to a Danish pharmaceutical company. That money could be sent to American farmers. The root cause of this is food. This is a new phenomenon. If you were obese 100 years ago, you were in the circus. This was a rare disease.
What?
We can use that money to give medical food. There's never been a pharmaceutical intervention for a chronic disease that's lowered rate of those chronic diseases because it doesn't get to the root cause. Statins has not lowered heart disease. SSRIs has not lowered depression and suicide. You've never had a drug that's actually lowered rates of disease. And JP Morgan actually estimates that obesity is going to increase as more Ozempic is prescribed. It does not get to the root cause. And we have a choice right now with this Medicare decision. Are we going to give $1,600 a month of taxpayer money to jab adults and kids? Or are we going to use our medical system to actually get...
That's that. Ozempic is the topic. And...
So one of the things that stood out to me in that video was the fact that he said we've never had a drug that actually lowers the rate of the disease. I don't know if that's true. I have not fact-checked this video. But I do think that things like psoriasis, like he mentioned, and obesity, I would agree with that. I mean, we're in an epidemic. How many people do you know that have psoriasis, skin issues? Right? How many people do we know that struggle with obesity? So many people. So
the statistic that I pulled, I was actually just for a live that I'm doing, over 74% of Americans are either overweight or obese. That is 3 in 4 people.
Insanity to me. It is insanity to me. And it breaks my heart because I don't think that people realize, and everybody gets... And most people, I think, are in a situation where they don't know why or how they got to where they're at. Mm-hmm. That's the conversation that I have with so many of my clients. I don't know. A lot of times with women especially, it comes with, I had kids and then I just couldn't get it off. What happened? Or, it was just, it's normal to grow up in a house where you're overweight or whatever that is. And so... I think just most people are being taught from a young age that it's normal or it's yeah, I mean, it is, unfortunately, I feel like it's normalized.
Oh, well, 100%. It's literally this entire live video that I'm going to be doing. I'm putting this presentation and stuff together is talking about breaking normal and why it's so hard to be in shape and be healthy. And we've all heard this, I don't want to call it a quote or a motto, but you are the 10 people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
Right? And you've heard if you hang out with 10 alcoholics, you'll be the 11th. If you hang out with 10 smokers, you will be the 11th. Like, you hang out with 10 overweight people that don't work out, you will be the 11th, right? And so when we talk about being normal, it is normal to be overweight or obese, which means for you to not be overweight or obese, to decide to work out on a regular basis and eat whole food and do the right things, you will be an outcast. You will be part of the 25% of America that is actually doing those things, right? And so it's almost isolating to do that, right? Versus 200 years ago, we didn't have an obesity epidemic, right? It was normal to be healthy. If you were overweight or obese, you would probably be like, oh my God, why do you look that way? Or why is this? Or why is that? Where now we talk about body shaming and stuff, like it's just normal. It's just accepted. Like, you have to just accept that people are that way. So it's almost harder. It's almost rare. It's almost like weird, or whatever the case is, to be in shape, which is the crazy
Well, it's
thing.
so funny. I just had that thought when you said that. Like, how many times have we been referred to as like the fitness couple? Mm-hmm. Or like, Roy and Tasha are the fittest couple I know. Like, no, we're not, number one.
we
know
way more fit people.
Like, we're not, okay? We work out, but we're not obsessive. Roy might be a little obsessive sometimes, but I promise you, I am not,
yeah.
Okay? But it is, like, that's our title, and it almost makes me feel, I have groups of friends in the past that when I'm around them, it almost makes me uncomfortable. Not me uncomfortable because I love them, but like it gets pointed out a lot. Like, oh, you guys work out a lot. You guys, I need to get in the gym. I need to do this, and I need to eat right, and I need to... We all know that we need to do those things, but it's not that I love working out, you guys. Like, I say this all the time, and I say it because I feel like it's so real for so many people. If you loved doing it, you would do it. You know what we love doing? We love going out with our friends and partying. Everybody except for us introverted people that are at home doing a podcast on New Year's Eve. We love eating food, good food. We love making cookies and having all the sugar. We love doing those things. I don't love working out, but I do it because it makes me feel better afterwards. I had this conversation just this morning when I was actually coaching class. I was like, I really don't enjoy the workout itself. It's painful. It feels miserable. I don't love it. I don't feel like I have the mental strength. We could go into that whole inside joke. I have an inside joke with my daughter about being mentally strong. But I don't love to push myself to that capacity because it's uncomfortable. I don't like being uncomfortable. It's painful sometimes. But the results I get afterwards, the mental clarity, the confidence I get, the ability to go about my life unburdened by things like aches and pains, right? By being overweight. And I have been there before where I didn't work out and I drank too much and I worked to party and I partied to work, and it was like I lived that life and I was different back then. The change that I've made mentally is the biggest thing, and that's another one that we were going to talk about, is like the mental change that you have to make, is why I like to work out, because without it I feel myself falling into like a depression and I get anxiety and I really struggle with my mental health. More than anything, I struggle with my mental health, and my mental health impacts my physical health so much. So they go hand in hand for me. That's not everybody. I don't think that's you.
Well, I think it is for everybody. Like, I think that I say that all the time, is that this journey is not a physical one. It is a mental one. Like, even
it has to be.
Being obsessed with quote-unquote working out. I've been working out my whole life, and I do love it. I do love working out. But you even saw me earlier this year, right? Like, when I was borderline, like, I just mentally wasn't there. Like, I was just going through the motions. But it's become such a part of my identity towards, like, if I didn't work out, I would have been full-blown depressed. There'd been no way about it. Mm-hmm. So they go hand in hand all the time. I teach that all the time. But again, going to the point of it being normal, right? Like, when we go out, we're almost like the outcast because nobody else does that. And it's like, we're the only ones. And then, like, if I go to have a piece of cake, I just always think it was like Easter, way back when. But I was like having a piece of cake or something, and my aunt was like, should you be having that? Like, you shouldn't have that. And I'm like, it's just like, it becomes such a thing to where it's like taboo, right? Like, and it should be the other way around. Like, if you decide you want to go on a diet or be healthy or work out, it's like you have to declare it. Like, if you get donuts brought to your work and you're living a healthier lifestyle, you're going to be the only one not eating the donuts, and like, that's isolating at times. And it almost makes it easier to bring it full circle back to our topic. It almost makes it easier just to say, hey, I can still eat the donuts, not work out, do whatever I want, and then just take Ozempic because it'll solve my problem, and I can still be a part of the norm. And that's what they're trying to do, is normalize this medication, normalize Ozempic to where it's just another drug. You don't have to work out. You don't have to eat healthy. You just take this thing and it'll do the work for you.
I think it plays into our psyche, right? Like, psychologically, we are meant to take an easy route. We are. Like, we want to do things that are easy. We don't want to do hard things. Like, human nature makes us, like, we don't want to have to struggle. That's not in our DNA. Like, we literally don't want to. And so when you have something that's being promoted as like, take this and you'll lose the weight and you'll get to where you want to be, or whatever that is, or you'll get to your goal weight or whatever, you take it blindly because that's what you want. And it, for me now, kind of learning what I'm learning, it makes it hard for me because I see the other effects it has. Like, you will maybe lose the weight, but what are the other side effects of losing the weight? Mm-hmm. Right? Like, what is the long-term side effects of taking a drug like Ozempic? And not to mention, like, there was a quote that we saw, or I saw a podcast with someone who had talked about the effects of what happens to your brain when you actually put yourself into uncomfortable situations and you actually force yourself to do hard things, and how it actually develops your brain in a completely different way, and it builds confidence and it builds character and it builds happiness overall, like long-term happiness, which is what most people, I think everybody is striving for. Like, that's the slogan, right? Like, that's our slogan: build your happiest, healthiest life, and happiness always comes first. You've always said that. Everybody is striving to be happy, and the fact is that most of us are unhappy because we don't feel good. We don't feel good. Our life isn't great. We're overweight or whatever. And so you take something like Ozempic thinking that you're going to lose the weight and then you're going to be happy because I lost the weight. That's not where it comes from. You can't do that. You can't just take a drug and lose the weight and then be happy. You might be outwardly happier because you fit in clothes a little bit differently, but inwardly you don't feel any different because you didn't do any work to get there. You took a drug. You took something and it made you not eat as much. And not to mention that, I mean, there's so many things. There's so many things about this that just make me like so sad. And it teaches our kids. We're talking about kids. Sorry to cut you off. Talking about the kids and the discipline that you need to teach your kids to do hard things. This is just completely erases that for the kids.
Well, that's what I was going to go into next, is the mental side of things. Like, you talk about happiness, and happiness is something that's earned through hard work. And I think about mental toughness. Like, who here, if I were like, hey, do you want to be mentally tough? Everybody like, yeah, I would love that. But what does it take to acquire mental toughness? There's a price tag associated with that, which means you would have to do mental toughness. Is I don't want to do this thing, and you have the mental toughness and mental discipline to say, I'm going to do it anyways. And what's interesting is we think back to our ancestors and cavemen, if you will. Like, I think mental toughness is almost ingrained into our social norms, because you had to go out and hunt for your food to survive. Like, you had to be mentally tough. Whether you wanted to or not, it didn't matter. You had to go out or you would not have food and you would die. And in the process of getting that food was the quote-unquote workout, like to make all these things happen, to have the food to provide for your family. And now it's like we just drive over to Walmart or order in DoorDash or whatever the case is. Like, we don't have to do that. So I almost think that it's actually harder to be mentally tough now than it was hundreds of years ago, because it's something that you have to teach yourself to do, right? Versus something just that's ingrained in our society. So I think people don't want to, people will deny it, but I think the issue with, the obesity epidemic is the fact that people aren't mentally tough. They haven't learned how and what mental toughness looks like, because that's what the first thing you're going to need to develop. It's something like just like a muscle. You need to develop to make yourself go to the gym, to do the hard choice, to say, I'm not going to eat. Because I hear all the time, well, I can't stay away from the fast food, or I can't stay away from the sugar. Like, that's mental toughness. That's what it is. Mental toughness is literally your ability to say, I'm just not, the cake's there and I'm just not going to eat it. Like, it's just mental toughness. It's not a physical journey. I preach this all the time. It's mental, because once you acquire the mental toughness and you train that, it gets easier over time. And then a mental toughness will relate into emotional discipline, right? To where I don't feel like doing it, or I really want the piece of cake. Those are emotions that you have. You need the mental toughness to be able to say, okay, listen, I know what you're feeling emotions and you're important, and you can navigate that, but still make the decisions of what's best for you in the long run. And then because you have the mental toughness that leads into the emotional discipline, then it becomes, I can do the physical things I need, and you start acquiring those things. And through that hard work is the happiness that you're talking about. There's never been a drug that says, oh, take this and you'll be happier, or take this and the side effect is happiness, right? It's weight loss, and you think the weight loss is going to make you happy, but it's the process of losing the weight and the hard work that comes with that you feel that confidence and that mental toughness, that mental discipline that creates the happiness. And so when we get to, what they were saying in there is that they're trying to push this drug to it being the science and the way to lose weight, meaning as young as 6 years old, if your kid is overweight, just slightly overweight, they will be prescribed Ozempic as the medical, this is the standard of what you need to do. And I worry about that as to, if your kid is overweight and then you don't do that and they become obese, and they can almost say, like, I just always think of, like, if somebody's going through a divorce and there's a case and one of the parents was like, no, we're not doing Ozempic, and they're fighting for custody of the kids, and the dad's like, she's not, or he's not doing the things that they need to do for the kids' health because they're not doing Ozempic, right? Like, how far will this go? And then it's like, what example are we teaching to our kids? Because now at a young age, they're taking this easy way out. Because the truth is that it has been shown that Ozempic is helping people lose weight. There's no two ways about it. Like, you take Ozempic, you're going to lose weight. But, it's the negative side effects, what kind of weight are you losing? Are you losing the right kind of weight? What is it doing to your hormones? What is it doing to your metabolism? What is it doing to your mental health? Like all these different things. And if we do that at 6 years old, what is that going to mean for our society generations from now? And that's the part that scares me.
Is it actually going to fix the problem?
I don't think it will. I think that...
Or is it just going to make us a drug-addicted society even more so than we already
100%.
are?
And I think that because they're solving the wrong problem. Oh, we got to lose weight. No. We need to get our hormones in check. We need to get our metabolism in check. We need to build the lean muscle so we burn the fat to live a happier life. And I say this all the time, you got to solve the right problem. And if you just solve the problem of weight loss through this drug, you're going to get other problems that are going to come up. And let's just say, for an example, what I think is going to happen is going to be mental health. Suicide rates are going to go up. Clinically depressed people is going to go up on stuff. And then what? Well, you're doing Ozempic to keep the weight off, but now you need to be on these other drugs for depression. And what are the side effects of that? And then it's just going to go on and on and on. And this is going to be happening not to college kids and adults, but it's going to be happening to kids at 6, at 7, at 8 years old. And so we have one more video that kind of correlates with this.
Before you go onto that video, I just want to touch on one thing because you mentioned hormones and all those things. Kids at 6 years old and any child before puberty, and even when they hit puberty, it takes a little bit for their bodies to regulate. A lot of adults struggle with hormone irregulation just based purely on their diet. Just based on the fact of what they're eating, their stress. Like, this is all the things that I'm learning in my course. And I have known for a long time, but it's one of the things that I'm going to actually put into practice with so many of our clients, like so many of the people that are like, I just can't do it, I'm struggling or whatever. But it's so much more than just like, oh, you take this drug and you're going to lose weight. Like Roy said, like, you don't want to mess with your hormones. And somebody that's 6 years old and is taking a drug like that really, it just suppresses the appetite. So it just forces the kid to not eat. It's going to come down to it should come down to a parental role as to not affect the kid's hormone levels. Anything that you're putting into your body that is unnatural will affect you on a cellular level, which will then affect the hormone development. It will affect your emotions. It will affect brain development. It will affect your cellular, like every cell in your body. It will affect the bacteria that's growing in your body. Like all of these things, it will affect it if you're not properly feeding yourself the right things. And I think that is the core issue in our society, is that we're not actually fueling ourselves properly. We don't know what that even looks like. Most of us don't even understand it, because all we're taught is just diet. Do this for 30 days. Do this for,
what's crazy about that
like,
is just diet. Like, that's the thing to lose weight. But it's like so funny. Like, it shouldn't be a diet. It should be eating whole food and eating healthier, which again goes back to the norm of like.
But that is your diet.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, that is the taboo thing. Like, you have to declare, like, oh, I'm only going to be eating chicken, fish, steak, eggs, broccoli, vegetables, fruit, whole foods.
I'm going to be only eating things that you can find in the earth naturally.
That's weird. You can't, like, you're an outcast if you do that. You're dieting. Like, you're not eating normal. Like, again, we go back to the whole normal thing, and what they're trying to do is make it's just so crazy. And I genuinely, and, we debate this because, again, I see both sides, because we talk about the food industry is just trying to keep us sick, or the medical industry is just trying to keep us sick, but I don't think, maybe, like, again, I see both sides.
I don't necessarily think they're trying to keep us sick, but I do think that they're trying to make money.
Right, they're trying to make money, and, because you go look at, like, the FDA's website, like, they have very good recommendations. Again, the issue is that people don't want to read it, people don't want to actually do it. It's just easier to get a medication from your doctor, and then that medication has a side effect, and you need a medication for that, and this and that. Like, it's just, and then the issue for most people, whether we talk about like hormone replacement or these medications, they don't get to the root issue and solve these problems, is that it makes things worse. And then once things are worse, it makes it almost like 10 times harder to reverse all those negative things that have happened. Versus if you did, for most people, I mean, everybody's different, but for most, because there's a time and place for medications. But a lot of these people that we get, these medications and these hormone replacements and all these things were just so unnecessary, and it was just a quick fix, that now it's messed everything up 10 times more. It would have been so much easier to prevent the things that were going to come if you would have just did things the right way. But you didn't want to do that. You didn't have the mental toughness. We'll go back to that. So you just took the easy way out, and now it's messed everything up tenfold. And now to reverse it is going to be this process that might take months, if not years, to get in check, which is crazy to me because now it's even harder this go around than it would have been.
I'm going to debate you on that for a second because I don't think it's that people don't have the mental toughness. I think that they don't have the knowledge.
Sure.
I think that we are trained from an early age. Like, I remember growing up and eating cereal for breakfast. I remember, and my parents are both my mom and dad have always been really active and very fit. They're both personal trainers. They both have kind of lived that lifestyle, but not understanding or having the knowledge as to what these processed foods and what the food industry is actually doing to us, growing up on things like Pop-Tarts and cereal. And like I told you the other day that I would go home and I would make cookies for lunch in high school. Like, you just don't know the effects that has on your body because it's not common knowledge. And I think that ultimately is the bigger issue. And when you realize that's the problem, it's too late.
I agree.
You've already screwed everything up, and now you have to reverse an entire life's worth of habits that you don't know how to fix because now it's just kind of ingrained in you, and you're highly addicted to sugar, and you're highly addicted to gluten, and you're highly addicted to all these things, right? Like, there's so much at stake, and you don't have the mental discipline because you've never had to work out, because all of a sudden you hit 30 and your body just starts gaining weight because your metabolism slows down, because things happen, your body shifts, especially women. It happens mostly in women. Our hormones start to shift and we don't metabolize food the same way, and so we cannot eat the same way that we did when we were 20. You just can't do it.
And you see it in guys too. I think less so, but it still happens to guys as well. But again, what are the effects of all this stuff that we just said? Like, you were taught at a young age, you know, don't have the information. What happens when you really don't have to learn, right? You don't even have to seek it out at all because you're just taking Ozempic.
Yeah.
And then you can just eat straight Pop-Tarts and this and that because you're going to be like...
It's so scary to me.
Crazy. So anyways, this kind of goes into our next video. So let's play this.
Yeah.
This is your wheelhouse. So there's this new study suggesting that this miracle weight loss drug, Ozempic, can also decrease opioid and alcohol abuse substantially, as well as reduce sleep apnea and cognitive decline, which sounds like great news. But I'm always suspect when a drug ends up getting more than one usage. It's like now it's got 7 usages. Is this going to help make America healthy again?
No, I saw this headline yesterday, and I need to look at the methodology of that study because I don't believe it. The EU is right now investigating Ozempic for suicidal ideation.
Oh.
But, it may be that the drug, because it suppresses all the reward pathways, so it makes you want to do everything less, and that may be part of the answer for this. But the idea that a drug is going to cure drug addiction or alcoholism, we're spending $1,600 a month on this drug. There's a bill right now before Congress that will make it available to everybody who's overweight, which is 74% of the American population. That alone will cost $3 trillion a year. If we spent about 1/5 of that giving good food, 3 meals a day to every man, woman, and child in our country, we could solve the obesity and diabetes epidemic overnight. A tiny fraction of the cost. They're trying to sell this. There's a huge push to sell this to the American public, and it's now the biggest company in Europe, but they're not marketing it in Europe. They make this drug in Denmark, and in Denmark, they do not recommend it for diabetes or for obesity. They recommend dietary and behavioral changes. In our country, they're counting on selling it to Americans because we're so stupid and so addicted to drugs.
Okay, so there's two big things that stood out to me in that video. Is one, where it's being made. And again, I haven't fact checked all this stuff, just what are our thoughts based off this video, right? We see it, we debate, that's what we're doing. But they're making it in Denmark, but they're not recommending it to their people, but they're recommending it to us. Like, that to
Us
me.
Americans are so stupid.
Because we're so stupid.
It's unfortunate that I believe him. Like, it's the amount of people that come into just our business and say, I just have tried this, this, and this, and it hasn't worked. Like, we're all ignorant to what actually is going to work and what's not going to work. We're not in tune with our bodies. Like, we don't know.
Yeah. Well,
it's so unfortunate.
Yeah, I think it's wild. And the second thing that stood out to me was when his solution to things. So I think we debate a lot on like what the solution is, because when we talk about the obesity epidemic on a grand scale, okay, the solution is, well, do a proper nutrition protocol, fuel yourself the right way, manage your stress, sleep, and exercise regularly. If we got everybody to do those three things, we wouldn't be in an obesity epidemic anymore. Like, that's it. The issue is that you can't force people to work out. You can't force people to eat healthy. You can't force people to do these things. And again, you can't force people to take a drug, but that's almost so much easier, right? And in a world where, money is a factor, our tax dollars and how we're processed foods, maybe a little bit more work to make the processed foods, but the shelf life is a lot longer. So that way they can stay on the shelves longer. So it's almost cheaper to make in that aspect, and you can make the prices cheaper. So I'm always like, well, you can't just ban processed foods, because then the prices of foods are going to go way up and all this stuff. But when he said how much money we're going to be spending in our tax dollars for people to be able to take Ozempic and it to be available for everybody, and he said for a fraction of the cost we could just give people healthy food, to me that solves almost the money issue of like, it would be cheaper to spend our tax dollars on giving people whole foods that they need to fuel themselves the right way than it would be to give this drug to everybody. And that, to me, and again, I don't know if that's true, but if we were able to get healthy, whole food readily available to all classes of all incomes, even if it came from our tax dollars, to spend our tax dollars on that instead of drugs, I feel like that'd be a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
I thought you were about to say no, like the way your face
No,
was
I believe that, and I feel like my opinion on the whole thing might not be for everybody, but I do feel like big pharmaceutical companies don't want us to know that, and they don't want to see it. And as conspiracy theorist as I might be, I feel like America is all about making money, and who has the most money and where can you throw it to get people to spend money your way. I mean, how often do you see commercials about whole healthy foods?
Mm-hmm.
And how often do you see commercials about, oh, you have this issue, take this drug? It's so unnerving when you think about it. Like, it makes me so upset about our country, because like being in it, and I think the unfortunate part for us is that we live, like, this is our life. Like, trying to get people healthy again is literally, we wake up and we think about it all day long, not just for our clients, but for ourselves too. Like, we want to be an embodiment of what it looks like to be healthy, right? And to have a good balance of enjoying the things that hence the wine, right? Making cookies, and making sure that we're taking care of our bodies so we can have a long, healthy life. We wake up and we do that every day, but not everybody does that. And so when you don't live that life and you're not kind of fed that information the same way that we are, I think about so many of my clients that are like, I just wake up and I go to work and I sit at a desk all day because that's my job, and they're not being fed the information about what it's going to take for them to live a healthy lifestyle. We're not giving that information. It's not given freely. You have to seek it out.
Yeah. You know what?
And that, frankly, pisses me off.
Yeah. Well, you know what it made me think about, because we were talking about earlier about what's normal.
Yeah.
And I think how we live our lives, of course, is not normal in the industry that we're in, but people go to work and they're seeing ads, like you said, for drugs, weight loss drugs all the time, and just drugs in general. And then, because every single person who comes into our thing, they said that they've tried everything, and I hear the diets and the drugs and the supplements and all these things that they've tried, and I'm like, none of that is the right thing. I'm like, where did you get this information? So again, to your point, because we're in this industry, we're doing the research, we're seeing these things. Like, these are the kinds of things that pop up on our social media all the time, where most people, it's not. They're probably seeing the fad diets and all these things more than we are. And they go to work in the norm where it's like everybody, oh yeah, we're going to eat healthy. They just think eating a salad is healthy. Or they're like, oh yeah.
Oh, I hear that all the time. I eat salads for lunch.
Right. Like, I don't ever eat salad. I don't ever eat just a salad, ever. I'm like...
And if you know anything about salads, is that that doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy,
right.
you guys. Like, it makes me so...
And so,
upset.
Going off that point, is like they're then being fed in where they go to work. Like, when I go to work, I'm talking to you, I'm talking to Coach Danielle, I'm talking to our other coaches online and stuff. All of us talking about what's the healthy and the right thing, and we know this information. We're constantly getting this information where they're going to work and they're talking to their coworkers who are overweight and obese and saying, I'm going to do this water fast. I'm going to do this medication. Ooh, I'm going to Ozempic and I lost 30 pounds.
Yep.
And so they're being fed the wrong information from all the people around them. And then it's just like this cascade of negative information all the time.
Or just
misinformation.
misinformation.
Just misinformation is the word, not negative information. Misinformation all the time, where it's like, man, how do we change it? And so my other question is like, okay, let's say we do put these things in place. Like, we, in my opinion, do the right thing. We don't get Ozempic to the kids, and we don't make Ozempic readily available to everybody who's overweight, because I just think the long-term effects are not going to be what we think it's going to be. And instead, they end up giving the opportunity to healthy meals, 3 meals a day to every single person. One, what is that?
And therapy.
Sure.
To be able to, I think, because you said, to your point about being able to make the mental shift, you need help with your mind to be able to stick to it. Not just, I'm going to give you these meals, and then you're going to eat the meals that are given to you, and then continually snack on the other. Like,
I'm just going off the video.
Yeah, go ahead.
You caught me off guard with that. Like,
sorry.
that wasn't part of the video.
It was. He said lifestyle changes.
Right, but what he was talking about providing anyways was these 3 healthy meals a day. My question is what does the healthy meals look like in their opinion? And what will they do cost-effective wise? You know, will they cut costs on making just cheaper foods? Will it be still processed foods but healthier options? Those kinds of things. And what does healthy look like? Like, is it just a salad? Oh yeah, we're sending everybody a salad. Like, is that going to solve the problem or not? And 2, my next question is living in the world that we live in and what is normal based on everything that we're talking about, would people still, if they were just given this healthy food, would they choose to eat it versus going to McDonald's versus eating the unhealthy foods or eating out or eating the sugar or the processed foods? Or would they do that and then still eat the other stuff and still be unhealthy? And or would they still choose out of their own pockets to go get Ozempic, even though it's not given to them? Like, would it really make a difference?
Hence my idea of therapy.
Well, and I think the thing is, like,
we need...
People say all the time, like, oh, well, our tax dollars should just go towards free gym memberships. I'm like, that ain't going to make you go to the gym. Like, the truth is that you could go for a run right now, and most people don't do it. So what is a free gym membership going to change?
And we have people that have free memberships that don't show up to the gym. So that doesn't change anything. It just changes your willpower to do it, which is, I think, the mental aspect of this is so important, and being able to recognize where we're falling short when it comes to, like, I'm such a proponent for mental health, and I know so many people are, and it is such an issue. The difference between somebody who can will themselves out of bed at 5 a.m. and somebody who can't is so drastic. And to be able to get up and force yourself to do the hard things when you don't want to is so drastic. So what are we going to do about the people who literally feel like they're drowning? They can't actually force themselves to make the change. They feel like they don't have enough time to make the healthy food, right? Because realistically, healthy food means that it's not processed, and you're going to have to prepare it yourself. What do we do for those people? And how do we help them? That's the debate, right? Because you're not just going to be able to give them the meals and then have an in-home chef, which would be great for everyone, to give you your personalized meals. That's just not realistic. And to your point, who's going to choose to make their food over going and getting a microwavable whatever and putting it in the microwave because they're a single mom of 4 kids and they have 30 minutes to create a meal? At that point, what do we do? And there's so many people in our world that are like that, and that's why we get overweight, because we're running out of options. And I think it goes beyond that. And we could, that I think opened up a whole
Well, I think that this
whole thing. It
these
just is like,
really get us into, we want to solve the problem. It's our industry. Like, we want to solve the obesity epidemic, and how do we do that? And I don't think it's something that the government's going to do at any point, right? I think that there's things that they can do to change certain things that we know is wrong in the food industry, but even how the food industry is right now and how things are being played out, there's still plenty of healthy people. It's not possible. And so I think that, to leave you guys with this, right, and everything that we talked about today, we got to debate, it was fun. I think that at some point you have to understand that you have your identity, and you've built your entire life around what it is that you're doing that has gotten you to be to where you are. And at some point, there needs to be almost an identity shift of, I'm not this person anymore, and you're stepping into, because you decided to have the 4 kids, and you ended up setting yourself into a situation. For most people, it's like, and I get it, it's not like, oh, I chose this life, but to some, your actions have built the life that you have. And it's like, you're busy, you're stressed, you're working these jobs, you have these 4 kids, again, not saying good, bad, your fault, not your fault, but the actions you've taken have gotten you into this situation, and it is now your identity. And at some point, there needs to be an identity shift of who you are to be able to make the changes necessary. And the government, me, my wife, nobody's going to do that for you. Again, you talked about if everybody could have a personal chef, and you guys are probably like, yeah, if I had a personal chef, that'd be great. But if the personal chef made whatever you want, would you choose for them to make you nothing but healthy food that would get you to where you want to be? Probably not. Because again, it comes back to the mental discipline and your identity and who you are and what's normal. I know that if I had a personal chef, I'd be like, make me some freaking cookies. Like, that's what I want, right? And so it's like, it still comes down to the choices you're going to make at the end of the day.
Yeah, I feel like most people are a victim of their own life. And I feel like that's where we fall into that, like, cycle of, oh, poor me, this is easier, I have to do this, I have to do that. We know plenty of people that have a packed schedule. Packed. And are single parents, like, to my point, and can still make healthy meals. Now, every once in a while, you can have treats or whatever, but, like, you have to make a choice to either live a healthy life or not. And it has to be a decision that you make, and you have to mean it at the end of the day. When I decided to make a change in my life, it wasn't because it was on a whim. It was because I was in pain and living, it's like that quote says, right? You make the change when the pain of living the way that you're living is too much to bear, and you have to make the change to live a better life, to become happier at the end of the day. You can't live in pain for any longer, so you decide to make the change to get yourself out of it. And I think most of us say that we're living in pain, but it's not bad enough. And so, yes, I'm overweight. Yes, I feel like this disease is popping up, and this blood work is this, and I'm given this drug, and I'm having to go do this, and whatever it is. It's still not enough for you to actually make the change that you know you need to make, because everybody knows that they need to exercise. That is not new knowledge. Every single person knows that they need to work out. We are not living on the land and exercising for a living anymore. Like, that's not what we do. We get to sit on our couch and have food delivered to our front door or whatever that is. Like, we're not actually having to go out and seek that anymore. And I think for most people, that comfort is way easier than realizing, oh, I'm actually going to have to work to get my body back to where it needs to be. And I'm okay living in pain right now because it's not detrimental. Like, I'm not actually going to die right now. So it doesn't feel life-threatening. But it should feel that way to most people. And that's the problem, is that it doesn't feel that way. Like, if you're overweight and you're having these things pop up and you're being prescribed drugs or whatever, and you're okay with that, okay, but are you really okay with that? And when's it going to become too much? And when are you actually going to decide to make the change? Because at the end of the day, you can make it. It might be challenging, but is it going to be more challenging than what you're dealing with now? And I think that that's the debate that most people have to handle. And when I went from being in a lifestyle that I was not healthy, I wasn't working out, I was drinking every single day, I was not working out, it was bad. I was mentally in a worse place. Physically maybe not, but mentally, I think the mental impact on this affects more people than anything. And when you're mentally in that rut, you have to figure out a way to get yourself out of it, because that alone can be the detriment to you.
Yeah. So, few things. Stop being a victim of your own life.
Yeah.
Make the choice to be healthier, because it is a choice at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, there's no drug, pill, government, or person that's come and save you. I think that there's help along the way. I think there's accountability. We would love to help you and coach you, but at the end of the day, we still can't even do it for you. Like, you have to make the decision. So I hope that's kind of what you got out of this. I know we were supposed to be talking a lot about, it's so funny. Like, we talk about nutrition. We'll do a nutrition talk, or we'll do a workout talk, or we'll talk about supplements, or we'll talk about drugs, or Ozempic, or this or that. And it always comes back to mental health and mental strength and mental discipline. Like, it always comes back to that. Mindset talk is always what it comes back to, because it really is that important. But I appreciate you guys. Just remember, we don't pray for an easy life. We earn a rough one. Please share the show, like, comment, leave a review, all those things. And we'll see you guys